Well, good afternoon, everyone joining us at home. Welcome to the Rebel News Daily live stream. I'm your co-host, Tamara Ugolini, and I'm joined by my wonderful colleague in British Columbia, Drea Humphrey. Hey, Drea, how you doing this morning?
Hi, everyone. Great to be with you, Tamara. And it's nice to have us in the same virtual space at the same time, because sometimes people call me Tamara. So now you can see that we're two different people today.
There are some very clear differences between the two of us. So I'm Tamara, and that is Drea.
Yeah.
And you're in
I
BC,
don't
so
know.
time zone is different there. So you're still like getting up and going this morning.
Yeah,
How's it
it's
going?
bright. Good. It's bright and early. I'm awake, so that's a good start.
Yeah, and you woke up to the news that Health Canada is going to be announcing shortly that they'll be authorizing the COVID injection, namely Moderna, for infants and toddlers age 6 months and up. So that will be a large part of our live stream where we're going to discuss some of that. And we're also going to live stream the announcement here for anyone joining us. So if you're on YouTube, unfortunately, at some point, if our commentary or our comments or our discussions around this announcement, if they become unsafe for YouTube, sometimes questioning the science goes against their community standards. So unfortunately, we will cut the live stream. It may come abruptly. We may be able to give you a warning. We're kind of leaving that in the hands of our editors to decide when and if that opportunity exists, at which point you can join us over on Rumble, Odyssey, or Getter. So I always recommend that you have those platforms ready to go, or maybe just switch over now to join us there. Because also on those platforms, you can give us some chats. So on Rumble, I think it's called a super chat. And that's a way for you to engage directly with us and also, so give us a small monetary donation and help keep the lights on and keep our investigative journalism afloat. So I would say that, you can just mosey on over to one of those platforms at any time that what we say might contradict YouTube's community standards.
Yeah,
Drea,
I
sorry,
was
go
just going
ahead.
to say that censorship thing we have to put up in the very beginning is definitely needed for this live stream. We'll do our best to stay on YouTube as long as we can, but definitely you might want to venture over to those other platforms to make sure we have a good chat about this. So.
And I forgot to mention too that the link to those other platforms will be pinned in the chat below. So if you just scroll down, you should be able to open up the chat and see the pinned comment there, which gives you the link. So it's pretty easy to just redirect over. Better to be safe than sorry. But I think first, while we kind of wait, we know that sometimes these bureaucrats aren't always on time. And so the live stream was supposed to start at noon. I haven't received word that it's actually begun yet in terms of anyone speaking. So while we have a few minutes, Drea, maybe before we get into some topics that are safe for YouTube, I'll just kind of let everyone know what we're doing here today for any newcomers or people who aren't familiar. This is the Rebel News live stream. So we host this every day at noon Eastern, and we discuss the newsiest news items. Today is obviously Thursday, July 14th. And so, as we've alluded to already, the biggest news, in my opinion, is that Health Canada is now authorizing these injections for infants and toddlers aged 6 months to 4 years old. There we have Health Canada approves the first COVID-19 vaccine for kids aged 5 and under. And this comes after, of course, we know the FDA authorized this injection as well just a few weeks prior. I had some written reports on that and some clips as well. But before we get into that, and while we wait for this live stream of the Health Canada announcement to start, Drea, why don't you give us some of the news out of BC there with some courts and some sketchy things happening?
Yeah, as usual, sketchy things are happening in British Columbia. And this one is quite bizarre. If you look at the Vancouver Sun article about it, they've been talking about this sort of secret trial that seems to be happening. It's a 31-day trial. And a Post media reporter was asked to leave the room, and they've got no reason for why this trial is sealed, which is apparently what's abnormal about this. Normally, there are reasons, maybe it's connected to terrorism, or maybe it has something to do with a police informant. So there's different reasons why a case might be sealed. But for journalists or the media to not even get an explanation as to why or anything about it is very abnormal. So Post Media has in fact hired a lawyer to try to get a little bit more answers to what's going on in the courthouse here. The case is being referred to as named persons versus Attorney General of Canada. It's gone in camera or behind closed doors. And that lawyer for that, his name is Scott Dawson, and he has lots of experience working in media litigation. And so his basic chief objective, without having been able to access the evidence and without knowing even the nature of the action or any of the details, I'm just reading here, was to be able to have some information on which to challenge the publication ban and sealing orders imposed by the judge. Now, this judge is Justice Christopher Chief Hinkson. I've reported on quite a few of Hinkson's cases related to COVID-19. He was the justice who ruled that the churches remain closed during the lockdown, but peaceful protesting for COVID reasons or whatever during the so-called pandemic, or the pandemic, we're on YouTube, whatever. He ruled that that would be okay. He is the same justice who is residing over 4 different vaccine passport related challenges that at the time when I was reporting on those, I think Rebel News was the only one bringing out stories on that. And I don't know him to be particularly unreasonable. So it is possible that there is something missing here, something just very rare and unique that is making this level of secrecy happen. But I can't help of thinking of, if you guys have been following my reports, the time where Rebel News actually had to get myself a lawyer due to the spider web amount of tangles of publication bounds surrounding the BC father who was speaking out against his child being medically transitioned against his consent. It was not, that's why he ended up in prison, was because he was telling his story, the attack on parental rights, and had been prohibited from telling that. And then as a journalist trying to tell the public and parents about what's going on, I was also under so many publication bans and restrictions, and there was so much secrecy, and it becomes very confusing. So at some point, it's like we have to, have this balance. And how do we do that if you go to appeal and you don't even know what's going on or why something is sealed?
Well, it reminds me of exactly what we're doing here on YouTube, where we have to essentially censor ourselves, even though we're talking about the government's own announcement and their data and what's happening here. And I've heard that the announcement has started. So we're going to, I think, just cut to a quick ad break, and then we'll get right into that Health Canada live stream.
Let's do it.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, you better take a drink of water.
All participants, please continue to stand by. This conference is being recorded. Cette conférence est enregistrée.
The wonders of technology.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who this person is. I'm not sure if anybody else.
Bonjour à tous, bienvenue à cette conférence de presse. Je m'appelle Catherine Lévesque, je serai votre modératrice aujourd'hui. Donc, on a une mise à jour de Santé Canada aujourd'hui. Today, joining us virtually, we have Dr. Supriya Sharma, Chief Medical Advisor from Health Canada. On a le Dr. Marc Berthiaume, directeur du Bureau des sciences médicales à Santé Canada. Le Dr. Howard New, sous-administrateur en chef de la santé publique du Canada. And equally on the line is Dr. Matthew Tunis, Executive Secretary from the National Advisory Committee on Immunization. So we will have a few remarks, and then we will be taking questions on Zoom. So if you do have a question, please use the raised hand function. Si vous avez des questions aux journalistes, s'il vous plaît, levez la main sur la fonction Zoom et nous viendrons à vous. Alors, je vous laisse la parole. The floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you. So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Today, I'm here to talk to you about Health Canada's authorization of Moderna's Spikevax COVID-19 vaccine for children 6 months to 5 years of age. This is the first COVID-19 vaccine authorized in Canada for this age group, which means that approximately 1.7 million children in Canada are now eligible to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Health Canada received Moderna's submission for children 6 months to 5 years of age on April 29th, and this submission built upon data from clinical trials in adults and older children, as well as the experience of administering hundreds of millions of doses worldwide. Health Canada authorized this vaccine as a 2-dose primary series administered 4 weeks apart. It's a smaller dose of 25 micrograms, which is half the dose authorized for children 6 to 11 years of age, and 1/4 of the dose authorized for people over the age of 12.
I have issue
clinical
with this.
trial showed that the immune response to Spikevax in children 6 months to 5 years of age was similar to that seen in people 18 to 25. And the clinical trials were conducted when Omicron was the predominant variant circulated in Canada and the United States.
Clinical trials.
Efficacy estimates among participants 6 months to 5 years of age are similar to those in adults during the Omicron wave.
So none?
As with all clinical trials, the children in the study were followed closely for any reports of side effects. And the vaccine was well tolerated, with no unexpected safety issues identified. The most frequently reported adverse reactions were irritability or crying, pain at the injection site, sleepiness, loss of appetite, and fatigue. The reactions were usually mild to moderate, resolving within a few days of vaccination, and no serious adverse reactions were reported. As with all authorized COVID-19 vaccines, Health Canada has issued terms and conditions to the manufacturer, requiring them to closely monitor any emerging safety issues, including any cases of myocarditis and pericarditis. Health Canada and the Public Health Agency of Canada will continue to work with provinces and territories, the manufacturer, and regulators around the world to monitor the safety of the vaccine. And we know that this collaboration has been able to quickly identify even the very rare and unexpected side effects that we see. This authorization comes at a critical time in the pandemic as we progress through the 7th wave. And though children are less likely to experience complications from COVID-19, they can still get very sick. And
like
children,
literally
like
zero.
Adults, can spread the virus. Emerging data also suggests that children with COVID-19, regardless of severity, can develop long COVID. And rarely, some go on to develop multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, which has a very high risk of hospitalization.
Where's the data?
There have been many questions over the last few weeks as well about new vaccines targeting the Omicron variant. Health Canada received a submission on June 30th from Moderna for its bivalent vaccine targeting both the original strain of the virus and the Omicron BA.1 strain for use as a booster in people 12 years of age and older. In addition, Moderna has indicated it plans to study a booster dose for children under 6 years of age, targeting the Omicron variant and the original strain of the virus.
Wow.
Other manufacturers have also indicated that they plan to make submissions for bivalent boosters for adults in the coming months. However, it may take some time before they make submissions for younger children. And vaccine manufacturers typically first conduct trials in adults and adolescents and then extend the studies to younger age groups. And this takes time.
But they barely did that.
It's still important to remember in the meantime that the vaccines used in Canada are very effective at preventing severe illness, hospitalization, and death from all strains of COVID-19. And are the best tools we have available to protect ourselves, our families, and our friends.
Wow.
Now that the vaccine is authorized, I'm sure everyone is anxious to hear how it'll be used. And Dr. New will be providing an update shortly.
So anxious to hear how it'll be used. Please appease my anxiety.
Bonjour, merci de vous joindre à nous.
Of course, we'll hear like
de l'homologation par Santé Canada du vaccin contre la COVID-19, Spikevax de Moderna, pour une utilisation chez les enfants âgés de 6 mois à 5 ans. Il s'agit du premier vaccin contre la COVID-19 homologué pour ce groupe d'âge au Canada, ce qui signifie qu'environ 1,7 million d'enfants au Canada sont maintenant éligibles à
I
la
can't
vaccination
believe that
contre la
there's,
COVID-19.
they say
Santé
that there's
Canada a
these
reçu
terms
la
and conditions, and
présentation
I've
des
seen that
modalités
with this
concernant les
interim
enfants
order
de
that
6 mois à
basically
54
gives the Health Canada the authority to authorize experimental or novel drugs onto the Canadian public for, COVID-19. And this rolling application is basically that the manufacturer has to submit data on a rolling basis, so as it comes in. And it's just like, okay, let's roll it out and see what happens, because there is literally no data from the manufacturer themselves. They've unblinded all the clinical trials that they've conducted to this point. I have lots of reports out on that, and I plan to continue doing it as they continue to push this on younger and younger age groups.
Babies.
So unless people know babies and toddlers, they can't provide informed consent. They're basing these medical decisions off of the irrational fear of these adults who have just been the subject of this massive fear-based marketing campaign by the government and their media arm.
Well, and the statement that there's been no adverse reactions to this at this point, I mean, it's based on Omicron, according to her, which, really became prevalent around Christmas last year. So how do we know? Again, it's that question of, what type of studies, and of course they have to roll things out because this is still ongoing, right? This is just a new thing.
Ongoing experiment.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Are we already not YouTube safe? I'm just like, what can I say here? I mean, they're saying these things. It's safe. It's effective. No big deal. Try it out. And I just wonder how people are perceiving this. I guess some people are just so excited. But let's talk about the risk to babies and kids to Omicron. I mean, I'm sorry. Am I missing something here?
Mm-hmm. Well, and this idea that long COVID exists in anyone who hasn't been vaccinated, I would love to see data on that. I guess, as time goes on and the experiment unfolds and that's collected, then we'll start to see, as we see now with the all-cause mortality, for instance, just being, I think on average, 20% higher in younger demographics than in previous decades in Canada, and certain provinces having higher all-cause mortality instances than others. But there's been professionals and experts sounding alarms that children, for very scientific biological reasons, are not susceptible to this infection. It has to do with their ACE2 receptors. So that's a cell receptor. And pardon me that I'm not a science major, so I don't fully understand all of the jargon, but they don't have the same number of ACE2 receptors that are present in adolescents and adults that makes them susceptible. So this virus is said to target those receptors specifically, and because children just don't have them, they're not at all susceptible to these infections. I mean, I guess there's always the instance of those with underlying conditions and autoimmune diseases, and there's always someone, right, who has poor health, but that doesn't mean that we should put everybody else at risk for a product that actually doesn't even protect anyone from that risk, because we've seen in the real world data that those who are injected can still become sick, they can still transmit. And actually there's a lot of speculation out there that those are the people who are creating the mutations because their immune system has now been primed in this super unnatural, ineffective and artificial way.
Well, according to her, she said that, it's safe. And what did you think about the doses? She said 4 weeks. Is that what she said?
Okay.
Yeah, because that's what's going on there.
Not only is it 4 weeks apart, which seems like a very close interval for something that we have very limited, i.e. relatively next to no safety data on. But the dosage amount, so I think that refers to the amount of mRNA in each shot. So I have it outlined. I broke the article this morning when they first announced that the intention to authorize this. The Moderna shot has, like she mentioned, 1/4 of the amount of mRNA per microgram than the adult. So for instance, like at 6 months old, I don't know how big your babies were at 6 months, but I have pretty small babies. So I think they were like anywhere from 12 to 15 pounds at 6 months of age. That 12 to 15 pounder is getting 1/4 of the dose of like potentially a 300-pound grown man.
Yeah.
Like just judging off of that weight ratio, that's not a really accurate dosage amount, but I guess I'm not the science person here. So what do I know? There's some more English announcements happening.
Oh, here we go.
Protect younger children in their care against COVID-19. The National Advisory Committee on Immunization, or NACI, has carefully reviewed the available evidence on the safety, efficacy, and immune response generated by the Moderna Spikevax COVID-19 vaccine, as well as the spread and severity of COVID-19 in children under the age of 5. NACI is recommending that a complete 2-dose primary series of the Moderna Spikevax COVID-19 vaccine may be offered to children aged 6 months to 5 years who do not have contraindications to the vaccine. NACI recommends at least 8 weeks between the first and second dose. For children 6 months to 5 years of age who are moderately or severely immunocompromised, NACI recommends that a primary series of 3 doses may be offered with an interval of 4 to 8 weeks between each dose. This is because people who are immunocompromised may have a lower immune response to COVID-19 vaccination. Infectious diseases like COVID-19 are unpredictable. Although younger children are less likely to get very ill from COVID-19, some can get really sick, including previously healthy children. Since Omicron became the dominant variant, more children have become infected, and the number of hospitalizations and ICU admissions of children under 5 years of age with COVID-19 has increased. COVID-19 vaccination in younger children will increase their protection against severe illness. Even if a child has been previously infected with COVID-19, vaccination is still important. While infection alone provides some protection, vaccination helps improve the immune response and can provide stronger and longer-lasting protection. For children under 5 years of age who have already had COVID-19, NACI suggests waiting 8 weeks after the start of COVID-19 symptoms or a positive COVID-19 test before beginning or continuing the primary series. This interval may be shortened to 4 weeks for children who are moderately to severely immunocompromised. At this time, NACI recommends that children 6 months to 5 years of age receive this vaccine 14 days before or after receiving a non-COVID-19 vaccine. This precaution will help determine if a side effect that may arise following immunization is due to the COVID-19 vaccine or a non-COVID-19 vaccine. There may be circumstances when it is necessary for a dose of this vaccine to be given at the same time as another vaccine, in which case a healthcare provider can help with decision-making. Based on provincial and territorial projections, there will be sufficient supply of the Moderna Spikevax vaccine for children 6 months to 5 years of age. The Government of Canada is working closely with provincial and territorial partners and understands they will be rolling out vaccination programs for children in this age group shortly. Please check your provincial, territorial, or local health authority website for information on when the vaccine will be available in your area. Starting a primary series now will provide some protection to these young children. It is also an opportune time to remind everyone to stay up to date with COVID-19 vaccines and the boosters recommended for them. While this authorization and NACI recommendations will come as a relief to many parents of young children, some may still have questions about vaccination. Parents and caregivers should speak with a trusted healthcare provider if they have questions. Information is also available on your federal, provincial, territorial, or local public health authorities' website. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Yeah, where is all the data to support any of what's being said in this at all? Like, we're obviously going to have to comb to try to find it, but I mean, I missed? Oh, sorry, I missed the whole 14 something, and then you said there was no data. What was that?
So before we get into that, because I don't think will be YouTube safe at all, and we haven't gotten off YouTube yet, which I'm surprised because we said some pretty concerning things there. So we're going to get off YouTube, but before we do, I wanted to say a quick piece, and there's just so much here to try to unravel. But he says that some parents may have concerns, and I am one of those parents. I've had concerns about this since they started talking about it. mid to end of 2020 when this started rolling out for adults. And then the 12 to 17-year-olds, they authorized in May of 2021. And then they authorized the 5 to 11-year-olds sometime shortly thereafter into the fall of 2021. And now we see that they're authorizing this injection for infants and toddlers, right? And so when that first authorization for the 12 to 17-year-olds rolled out in May of 2021, I interviewed at the time a COVID dissenting doctor, Dr. Mark Benoit, and he was saying that he was trying to conduct a risk versus benefit analysis. So what's the risk of COVID? What's the risk of the injection? And do an analysis. And it should look like there's a calculation that can be used. And then what was the result of that calculation that Health Canada used to justify the rollout of this injection for that age demographic. And this is in May 2021. I did an interview with him. He had some communication with Health Canada and their biologics, I think it was biologics, pharmacology division. And they basically referred back to feelings, right? Parents' feelings. They needed to appease their unfounded fears. And so after that back and forth and that he wasn't getting any clear answers, Health Canada didn't respond to me at all. I filed an access to information request. This, again, is May 2021 for the 12 to 17-year-olds. I filed an access to information request. We had a lot of back and forth for 3 or 4 months where Health Canada kept trying to seek clarification with me of what my ask was. They tried to hit me with 185,000 pages of documentation, to which I said, no, I just want this one calculation, right? Just give me what parameters were used and what was the result. I just need one calculation. That's it. I don't want 185,000 pages. Just the calculation.
They couldn't find it. Yeah.
So in September of 2021, they took a 365-day extension on my ask of that calculation, risk versus benefit, that they used to justify the rollout of this injection. So we won't even know, and who knows what they'll come back with in September, right? That's 2 months away from now. Who knows what they'll come back with at that time that they had this calculation. I'm assuming they don't have it, and that's why they have filibustered this for over a year and a half. But when he says that they have concerns, well, yes, we do. And why aren't you answering them?
Which is the most concerning thing of it all. So, and I'm sure we're going to get into why Moderna for kids or for babies too, right? When we get off.
Which won't be YouTube safe.
So
again, if you're just joining us or you've heard our chats a little bit, we have pinned a comment in the chats. Maybe before we get off YouTube, actually, let's go through some of these super chats and then we'll really get into the nitty gritty. So we have a few. Just a Bursey, $1. Thank you. How much money are these guys making on these vaccines? Spreading fear. And that's all it is. You know, I was actually like thinking of making it rain when NACI comes in and starts giving these speeches, because we know there's so many conflicts of interest here with these people who are pushing this on us, including our own Ontario Chief Medical Officer of Health. I've done some pretty extensive reports on that. But Adam in Ottawa also gives $1. Thank you very much. There's a new trend at work where managers are declaring themselves to be privileged white males. Since when did it become shameful to have worked hard in one's life to hold down a good job / success? You know what? The woke culture is infiltrating everywhere. There's a company that my husband actually worked for, and his foreman had to have all of his cards, his business cards, remade so that it said for person.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. I'm not surprised. Yeah, you know.
And it's like, really? What if he's a man and
he
identifies as a man? Can't he be a man?
No, you're just a person. But it's happening on all levels, school too, and now we're seeing it in the workplace, so not surprising at all. Alberta Separatist. I was going to read it. Alberta Separatist says, what do they feed the bugs they want us to eat? Grains, meat, oils, humans? It's WEF-UN liberals instead of liberals are killing farming, and ONG will they eliminate the food needed to make bugs for us to eat. They are trying to eliminate us. Wake up, resist, fight back now. I stand with Netherlands and truckers. Is it true that they serve some sort of bug meat at the Calgary Stampede? I saw that. You know, we laugh about it now, but it might be the only choice on the menu in 2 years, right? My goodness. delicious.
Apparently they're already inserting like cricket powder into certain foods, and you can buy cricket powder. I mean, I know like some of the healthy kind of vegan types have been looking into vegan powder for a while. It's not a new thing, but I just don't want anyone to force it onto me. And I don't want it to be hidden into like, if I go to A&W and get a burger, is it half cricket meat? Do they even have what is cricket meat?
Right. And guilting the red meat eaters like myself who loves the steak, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And, you're destroying the world. So.
All right. Well, let's get off of YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, you can go into the chat and you can click the link there to be redirected to Rumble, Odyssey, or I always forget the other one, Getter. So join us over there because we're going to dissect a little bit this rollout of this injection here in Canada for babies and toddlers who can't provide informed consent. So head on over there. And I think that the first thing to note that came out of Ontario yesterday is that our